Conversational Apologetics.
Joel, did he tell you?
He said he enjoyed it. Yeah.
Yeah. He said that he likes it when our episodes are 30 minutes or less. He feels like he can do that. He's like, when they're much more than 30 minutes, I feel like it's a little bit tough.
Yeah. I understand that. I understand that. Yeah. I like long form things, but I do like, there's something to like a 25, 30 minute thing you just crank out, you know what's happening.
So with that, that's our take. No, I'm just
yeah, we want to wrap this up. Get it in the books. I'm excited to keep running through this. Not as polarizing as some of our Catholic shorts and reels that just keep getting traction.
They keep getting it. So
it's insane.
It is.
But we're here to ask questions, not talk cults. So today we're going to continue our series. Title of this episode is Helping People Think. That's almost like a collective for the whole book, kind of.
Yeah.
This is guiding conversations with grace, and we talked about the first two Columbo questions. We're getting to Columbo question
number 3.
That's right. And so we'll give some examples. We'll give a little more information about that. But hopefully you'll walk away with like another little tool, another little tactic for these kinds of conversations.
Yeah, sounds good.
Let's go ahead and take it to the next level.
Let's fire up that twangy music.
From the heart of the Low Country in South Carolina,
it's the Take 2 podcast, where we take theology to the next level.
Have you heard someone say, all religions basically the same?
Yeah.
Think what you want to think. Like everyone's going to you get the same place.
That's your truth.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
You hear something like that, and if you're like me, you might just be like, I've got a list of so many reasons that Islam's like this and Buddhism is like this and Hinduism's like this. And that might be just derailing the conversation. Again, we're trying to like hone in, be a good listener.
Yeah.
And so maybe we should ask something like, have you ever considered, I like that the way that question even starts. Have you considered that Christianity claims salvation is a gift? While most other religions teach salvation must be earned. And just a simple question. You're not you're not yelling in their face. And then it really causes them to think a little bit deeper. No arguments. And maybe we can talk through some truth, and they can even articulate some of that truth. Yeah,
and even you could get more specific, like, well, you could say, do you know what Christianity thinks about God? Do you know what Hinduism thinks about God?
Yeah.
Those are not compatible, so they can't really be the same.
It's great, and as we keep going, I have not finished the book yet, but as you're going along, it's like great. He's got all these like infanticide and sibling rivalry and how these different arguments like compete with each other or eat themselves or these kind of things. So these are like great questions to think about. Let's do what we've done often, and let's look at some scriptural foundation for this kind of thinking.
Am I reading this?
Oh yeah, go ahead. Turn to Acts 17, classic texts. Paul at Mars Hill. You hear this kind of thing a lot. You can read starting. I mean, you can pick and choose, I guess, if you see a pertinent part, but maybe 22 to 31 is kind of the range we're looking for.
Yeah, 22 to 31. So Paul stood in the midst of the Areopagus and said, "Men of Athens, I observe that you are very religious in all respects. For while I was passing through and examining the objects of your worship, I also found an altar with this inscription, 'To an unknown God.' Therefore, what you worship in ignorance, this I proclaim to you. The God who made the world and all things in it, since he is Lord of heaven and earth, does not dwell in temples made by hands, nor is he served by human hands as though he needed anything, since he himself gives to all people life and breath and all things. And he made from one man every nation of mankind to live on all the face of the earth, having determined their appointed times and the boundaries of their habitation, that they would seek God, if perhaps they might grope for him and find him, though he is not far from each of us. For in him we live and move and exist, as even some of your own poets have said, for we also are his children. Being then the children of God, we ought not to think that the divine nature is like gold or silver or stone, an image formed by the art or thought of man. Therefore, having overlooked the times of ignorance, God is now declaring to men that all men everywhere should repent, because he has fixed a day in which he will judge the world in righteousness through a man whom he has appointed, having furnished proof to all men by raising him from the dead.
Awesome. Thanks, Michael. I know that was a little extended. We'll talk about this a little bit. What's so fascinating about a passage like that is you kind of see how Paul, we can talk about, how does he move people from where they are, from where they need to be? He's got an agenda in mind. He's going to take them somewhere, but he doesn't start at the end. We can talk about how he reasons. He doesn't just, proclaim right out of the gate what many of us might jump to, but he seeks to persuade through this movement.
Yeah, I think that's good. And I pointed out before, if the Greek people in this society, that the Romans eventually adopted the Greek culture because of how they were, Alexander the Great conquered everything, and that Hellenistic culture spread everywhere. They really were focused on philosophy. And you may or may not catch it, but three of the questions that the pre-Socratics, and really Socrates too, they deal with, he answers, like, what's it mean to live? What's it mean to change? What's it mean to be alive versus not? So existing, living versus non-living, and how do we change? Like, what does it mean for me to be the same person I was 30 years ago, but clearly I've changed? And so he says there, it is in him we live and move and exist. And you may not, you're like, what? But we live, that's living and non-living. Moving is how they would talk about changing, and existence versus non-existence. So he's saying he's really the foundational answer to some of these philosophical questions that people have had.
Yeah, so he's very much like in their way that culture thinks. He's observing, he's jumping onto this common ground, quoting their own poets, and then pointing out maybe some inconsistencies, pointing them to Christ. He's not, just coming in heavy, hardcore, but he's building these bridges while at the same time exposing a worldview and belief that affirms the God of the Bible.
That's great.
Acts 26, we might not read this, but just talking about it, Paul before King Agrippa, we're just hitting on Paul, great guy to talk about. And he's got this great apologetic speech, and it's a good blend because he's very confident. Yeah, if you want to pull out some text from there, you can.
Well, I was just seeing, I can never remember if it's with Festus or Agrippa
I know.
that he says, but one of them he says, these things weren't done in a corner. Like, I'm not telling you things that are secret. Everyone knows this stuff.
Is out.
And so he's kind of using that in his arenas too. But yeah, I like what you got here.
And he's using like with King Agrippa, he'll say, King Agrippa, do you believe the prophets? I know that you believe. So you see that boldness. We're not saying like, don't have boldness, don't broach these issues. You don't want to humiliate someone, and Paul certainly isn't doing that. But he's kind of pressing him like, give me a verdict, give me a decision here. You can't have it both ways. What do you think? Jesus before Pilate, classic. What is truth? What a great question from the way, the truth, and the life. And if you back up Jesus before that, before Pilate asks him what is truth, Jesus asks Pilate questions of his own, and you read all of this, and Jesus gets to the heart of the matter. We've showed this over and over again. And you can see, this wrestling, tense moment, these kind of things. But questions, don't underestimate the value of questions. If you walk away from the series, you're probably picking up on that.
Yeah, and I think this last one here, Nathan and David, of the best examples. Classic. Because Nathan doesn't go into him, firing all of his rounds. He tells them a story, presented it as true, and he gets David on the hook. He gets David to come to the conclusion that he wants him to, and now he says, David, you're that guy.
Man, what guy. If a prophet is ever telling me a story, I'm on guard. I'm
where are we going with this?
Because that's a great one to end on, because David condemns himself with his judgment, and it's man, you are the man. That is so crazy, but it's a good example of reaching a conclusion yourself, having the other person talk out loud, and it might not be as black and white as that, but you can start, doing the pebble in the shoe thing. At least they think about it like, oh, I didn't have as good of an answer as I thought. So with that kind of background, let's jump into this third question. Do you remember the first two questions?
Yeah, the first two questions, you're really trying to get information from the person. Clarification, that's the first one. What do you mean by that? Or some version of that question. Can you say that again? I didn't quite get it. You're getting them to restate their position. Often they'll use different words. Maybe they'll try to give you a little bit more detail. Second question is really pushing the burden of proof back on them. How did you come to that conclusion? Or what thought process led you to that? So the really first and second question, you are trying to get information from your interlocutor, person you're talking to. Third question, kind of shifting it up a little bit.
I like that. The question is, have you considered still using curiosity, not accusing them, but you're starting to like lead them in a certain direction. We'll get to some examples later, but it works for all sorts of very common questions you come across. Again, people don't love being corrected, or there's like waiting for you to say your thing so you can say it back. People are much more likely to, like explaining or discovering this kind of thing. And these kind of questions kind of give them ownership. They might say, oh yeah, of course I've considered that. And then once they start talking out loud and explain, it's always like the things underneath all of these claims. It just like sometimes not well thought out. And it's not like you're saying, hey, I know you're wrong. You're just saying, hey, have you considered this? Even though in your mind you might be like, I know they're wrong and this is why. Let's see if we can help them see why they're wrong.
Yeah. And in order for this one to work, you really should have already used questions 1 and 2 to draw that person out. And in doing so, they will have articulated something that you have found, okay, here's where they've got it wrong. And then you can start using this third type of question to start leading them to help them see what they have wrong.
That's really good. You got to really be listening and that fact finding for the first two. Don't just like tune out. You're like, okay, because the have you considered, what comes after that could be a number of different things based on what's pertinent to the conversation. And, as we're thinking about this, just like with anything else, clarifying definitions is so important that a lot of times things are more misunderstanding than actual full-blown disagreements. So, if you don't know what something means or you feel like we might not be on the same page, don't, feel bad about saying, hey, when you say truth, what do you mean? Or you say like Christianity is not tolerant. What do you mean by tolerant? Can we talk about what that means? And get more of a understanding. Is tolerance accepting people? Is it respecting people? Is it wholeheartedly agreeing with everything, never disagreeing? And once you start like pinpointing these definitions down, it just starts opening up so many different things. And we could go on and on with all these like buzzwords and slogans, right?
Yeah, that's good. So anytime someone's using you use two of those truth, tolerance, judgment, faith, evidence, all of these words need clarification.
Yeah.
And
loaded words.
Yeah. You can get that with questions 1 and 2. And then like we said, when you kind of find where that error is, you can hone in on question 3.
And something to think about, we're always saying just get in the batter's box. I'm not a big baseball guy, but I get the analogy. Koukl will make this, known that the goal isn't like, I'm just going to like win every argument. It's okay if you're met with thoughtful silence or a puzzled expression. That's actually probably a positive thing, right? Where it's not like they just wrote you off, but you can kind of see that's struggling. Maybe they even say, I've never thought about that before. Let me think about that more. And sometimes those things just stick with someone. I know there's plenty of things that have just stuck with me that I don't figure out an answer for a year or two. And it comes up and it, kind of changes my thinking a little bit over the course of several weeks, months, and different people to really understand, okay, that person way back when kind of helped start this process.
That's really good. We already talked about shifting the burden of proof. Someone says there is no God. What convinced you of that? The Bible has changed. What evidence leads you to believe that that's the case? I can't tell you how many people think that what we hold right here is a translation of a translation of a translation of a translation of a translation. And it's just like the telephone game. I'm like, no, we have 6,000 manuscripts. We can compare them all.
Yeah.
They're in the original language. Plus we have thousands and thousands of manuscripts in, adjacent languages. that
pretty
we can
amazing.
use.
Yeah,
So
that's so good.
But
and
asking
it's like,
those questions can help draw them out. Like, what led you that? Well, it's just a translation. Well, how did you come to? How did you know that? Tell me more about that.
And even if the conversation, even if you don't know the number of manuscripts and all these things, if it leads them to do a little research, like let me show you, I'll do some research. Like if they start researching that kind of stuff, it's very readily accessible. And if you're a Christian, have confidence that your worldview stands up. Even if you don't know the answer, if there is like a text, someone's like a gotcha text, the Bible contradicts itself, and I haven't heard of it, I'm like happy to talk about it. I might not know. It's like, hey, let me get some research because I'm very confident that there is an answer. So let's go ahead. Let's jump into some of these real life examples, and some of these will be like repeating. We're just adding in this third Columbo question. Classic one. All you Christians are so judgmental. Christians shouldn't judge.
Got this on a comment the other day. I didn't ask a question. It's I don't know it's probably,
it's hard in comments and stuff.
Yeah, in comments going back and forth because you don't know the person's ever going to come back and ask. But I did get to the like, hey, maybe you're not understanding judge here because the Bible uses judge more than one way.
Yeah.
So if you hear someone say, you shouldn't judge, I think our knee-jerk reaction is to tell this person they're wrong.
Yeah.
That they're wrong.
Yep, that's right.
Like if you've read all of chapter 7 of Matthew, by the end of that chapter, Jesus is telling us to judge people by their fruits. He doesn't use that word judge, but
it's there.
That's what he's saying. And there's all the kind of places where we are to know them by their fruits.
Absolutely.
And so the discipline that you have to have is
just
don't launch into that.
Sit
don't
back.
launch into it. Yeah. So you might say, what do you mean by judging?
Yeah, and they might say, like saying something else is wrong. Like you might be a Christian. I'm doing my own thing. It's fine.
Yeah. And how did you what in particular led you to that?
It's kind of how our world, we live in a free country. This is America. Like just do your own thing.
But how did you come to the fact that maybe Christians shouldn't judge?
Because they're always telling people like don't do this. They're just bigots, And
then you might say like, well, have you considered that by telling me not to judge or telling me that I shouldn't judge, that you are in fact judging me?
Well, that's different. It's like I'm not telling and then they start doing this kind of thing, and maybe they can they'll say something of substance, but they're probably defining judging in an inconsistent way and applying different standards to different people. And then it's like, okay, you got a real conversation going, and you probably even just hear like that stumbling, like, well, they're saying like, I can't do this, but we would never do that. But you are making a judgment.
Yeah. And then you might say, well, if you've read what Jesus says in the opening part, his conclusion is, you hypocrite, get the log out of your own eye before you help the brother with the speck in his eye. One, so it seems like Jesus is talking about hypocritical judging, not just judging in general. Two, he doesn't say, don't help your brother with the speck in his eye. He's just saying, hey, make sure you don't have a log in your eye first.
And you might even say, like, do you think it's okay to, define that hypocritical judging like that? That is so good. I was listening to an excerpt of a podcast. J.D. Vance was recently on the Joe Rogan podcast, and they were talking about Joe Rogan's like, man, Texas is trying to push the 10 Commandments and all these public schools. Like, why is Christianity like pushing their agenda and all the people? And I wish J.D. Vance would have used some of these questions, Yeah. I think he did an okay job. I did not listen to all of it, but it's like that's great because, and we covered this in our politics episode, like, what about everything else that's pushed on it too?
Sure.
And what's, it's like, it's a bigger conversation than saying you shouldn't lie in a classroom is different, A, than pushing it on someone, and B, just all the other stuff you read. And with J.D. Vance, the route he went was our country, Western civilization is kind of built on a lawgiver. It's kind of like, even if you're not religious, that's like Judeo-Christian values.
Maybe you should have asked, which one of the 10 Commandments do you have a problem with?
I wish you would have said that.
Because 5 through 10, 6 of them wholly are inculcated in some way in our law.
See, so this is good. Like, even asking a question like, which ones do you find problematic, Joe? Would have been so good. What he did say, he was like, I think most of America would agree with 8 out of 10 for sure. But he kind of like just like breezed by it without like asking that question and inviting that conversation. Because maybe, you don't know all the 10 Commandments, or maybe you just know a couple, but people know like you shouldn't, these kind of things. So it's like, that's like such a better conversation.
Right.
But anyway, just a good example. One more real quick. I like this one because you hear it a lot. Science disproves miracles. Like if you believe in science, you can't believe all these fanciful, miraculous claims. And it's good even just to walk through like, how did you come to that conclusion? Like, have you ever considered these different things? And, a miracle by definition is an extraordinary act of God. It's like not what science observes. It's like, it's not even what science does.
That's right. Right. Yeah. By definition, it is happening outside of the bounds of science. So science couldn't tell you whether it could happen or not.
Yeah. It's not a science question. So it's just, it's good to have these, even that might not be a satisfying answer to the person you're talking to, but that is like reality. That's like a definitional truth.
Right.
Anyway, practicing the Columbo method, like this is something we're talking about a lot. Just try it in conversation, even with people you agree with largely, like in conversation. These are good things to get practice, like, because if you're not practiced on it, it can kind of, it is simple, but you should practice.
Yeah. So like one way I try to get in a lot of practice, sometimes she'll be like, "Hey, Michael, you're not cleaning up the room." And I'm like, "What do you mean by that?" And she'll say, "Well, I just see your stuff all over." And I'm like, "How did you come to that conclusion?"
If you need to get out of something,
it's really great for your marriage.
Marriage 101. But to our point, don't just wait until you're in this like consequential conversation. Use it. It's like you're out there on the basketball court, like practice left-hand layups. They're kind of hard to do in a game, hard to do in practice. You gotta get the timing down. Just practice it. Once you get it down, not super hard. And then, the difference between memorizing a script versus just being a good conversationalist and a listener and that kind of thing. Being a curious person,
Yeah, that's good.
What do you mean by that? What makes you say that? How did you come to that conclusion? Have you ever considered? Great question. Turntables.
So with the question, I guess we're about to ask a question. But before we ask this question, I want to ask another question. Do you think that Columbo 1, 2, and 3 are somehow cheating in conversation?
Oh, I don't think. I think it's actually drawing out substance.
Right.
Even if I agree with someone else, like drawing out like the underlying principles, I think are helpful. I don't think it's cheating.
Right.
I think it's you actually are talking.
Right. It's just talking. And so this next question is, what if someone uses Columbo on you? Okay. Answer the question, especially if it's number 1 or number 2. You should be very willing to re-explain what you said, very willing to explain how you came to that conclusion. There have been times that 3 is where you're kind of leading someone to a conclusion. You might ask a series of questions where you're trying to get them to see something in their logic. And if it's done well, you shouldn't have any problems. Sometimes I've had
it can be kind of gotcha-y.
It can be. It can feel gotcha-y, especially if they're equivocating on a word. Like they use a word one way. So there was this debate where this lady, you've seen the kind where they have someone in the middle and they have a whole bunch of people around. They can. So this lady was in the middle, and this person was asking her about abortion, and he was asking her a series of questions, like, well, Jesus said that if you lust after a woman, you've already done it. It's just the same. And they want to use that as justification for abortion. I'm like, well, when Jesus said it's the same, he doesn't mean it's the exact same. He's just saying it's that root of that sin. And so sometimes, I said a lot to say, if you feel like you're being led down a conclusion, you can say, hey, I feel like I'm being led into a conclusion, and I'm not sure if you're using these words the same way. I would prefer you just ask me the plain question up front and discuss it. So you can head off someone using the number 3 tactic on you, and you might have someone do that to you too, and that's fine. They may say, hey, I feel like I'm being led to a conclusion.
No, that's good. And that's like honest conversation. Like, hey, let's get out in the open. If someone says that to me, I just look them in the eye and says, are you using the number 3? I know the number 3. Don't you dare use the number 3. I'm using the number 3 on you. But yeah, it's like, it's not a tactful, deceitful things. I think, and a lot of it does come with how you ask it, where you can make all these questions sarcastic and like gotcha-y and you're really just antagonizing.
And then we'd be violating those
That's right.
wisdom, character,
Yes. That's why that whole intro is so
Right.
important, because a lot of it is just being comfortable. When you turn it into a script, you almost can run into the same problems. It's like, just be curious,
Right.
ask, and know your worldview stands up. It's grounded in Scripture and God's Word. And if you don't know everything, it's good to backtrack and talk these things out. That's really good, because I think in his book, when I was listening, he's like, there's like this atheist manual to convert. There's a book he referenced that is like, it's very similar to my book and the tactics. I don't know what it is, but it's like
a manual for atheists, I believe is what it's called.
So yeah.
And they use the same thing, but this is where I think they're being disingenuous, because they don't use the same definitions for the word faith, and so they try to trap Christians into these questions. And so if you feel like you're being trapped, just say, "Hey, I feel like I'm being trapped." Just ask me the plain question, and let's get everything out on the table, and you're just having an honest question. Hopefully, both sides should not want to play games. Like, we're not trying to play a game with the atheists. We're trying to draw that atheist out, get them to put, I say atheist, it could be, whatever. Just to put their assumptions and their thoughts clearly out on the table, so that you can help them see when and if they don't go together.
Absolutely. And that's why we talked earlier, like, when in doubt, so you can clarify on these definitions and stuff, because that is really where it gets tricky, when you do the bait and switch thing, and you're like, okay. Great. Real quickly, as we're getting to the end of our episode again, looking at Jesus, there's a couple good examples of Jesus using questions that gets to like a totally different underlying issues. Luke 20, questions are being asked about John's baptism, and what Jesus is revealing is that they don't really care about truth. They care about what the public is saying. And he exposes that so well, being like,
I'll answer you if you answer me this.
Yes.
You don't really care about this.
He's like, you're not, you don't want the right answer. You want what's going to get you out of trouble or whatever, and uncovering motives. Mm-hmm. And so this is where these questions are so powerful. So practically speaking, this week, let's review those 3 questions. It's hard to, if you're listening to these once a week, you might be forgetting these, but what do you mean by that? Mm-hmm. How did you come to that conclusion? And have you considered, and you've said this, you don't have to like say those exactly, but something in that ballpark, and just practice saying those, and make, if you can practice naturally, that's good too. Don't want to be weird and awkward about it. Just be a good conversationalist, asking really good questions that get to the heart of what you're trying to uncover. Anything else we got on this? Because really, in this episode, we covered a lot of ground, chapter 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah. So this is like a big, if you read the book, you get a lot more examples, that kind of thing. Next episode, looking ahead, we're going to kind of get to the second half of the book. There's like a shift from first to second half, and we start talking about more of these different tactics, a little bit more complex. Mm-hmm. Like these first 3 episodes really cover like just the basics. If you learn nothing else, they're just like easy tools to use.
Yeah, I think that's good. Yeah.
Sweet. Well, final take. I don't know where you want to go. I was going to ask you about this shirt I'm wearing, Michael.
It looks like a...
what do you think?
Palm trees, I'm assuming.
I'm
is the question palm trees or like some other type of plant there?
Yeah, I got a lot of flack for this shirt in my family.
Okay.
I found it online, and I guess I should sell it to you. This shirt is great because it's so versatile.
Okay.
It is like... it's like one of these waterproof kind of shirts. The way it's advertised, the way I got sold on it.
Like you can go into the pool, get right back out.
I was like, hey, I'm going to jump in the pool. And the criticism from my brother and my sister and my wife was like, I was like, because you never know. Maybe I need to go somewhere nice after the pool. Yeah. And they're like, well, you're wearing swim trunks. But I was like, hey, you just always want to be looking ready to rock and roll.
Yeah, I mean,
a lot of flack for this
James
shirt.
Bond was ready.
Thank you. I was getting a lot, and in their defense,
I thought that they thought that the thing was going to be, because you said trees? I thought that maybe the palm trees might look like a different, more recreational plant.
Oh, yeah, could have gone in that direction. The shirt, it is like waterproof, but it's not like you get out of the water and it's like completely
it's not
dry.
Like an otter that just dries right off.
It dries pretty quickly, but I was getting a lot of comments like, looks like that shirt's still a little wet there, bud. You know, I'm like, just give it. It's not, you know, so.
Yeah. I mean, but let's say you were walking along Folly Beach or something.
Yes.
And you're just like in some khakis that you don't mind really getting wet, and you got that. And if you had khakis that were made out of
that's the
shorts,
next level.
right?
Yes.
So you can get a little bit wet, and within 30 minutes, you're dry enough to go sit in a restaurant.
You ready to go? Yeah, grab
yeah.
some tacos. This SPF protection of like 50 or something.
You gotta stop giving Zach a hard time.
That's right.
Board.
Yeah, that's good. I'm glad. This is where I come for, to be consoled. And I have a reputation in my family for just not buying weird things, but some off the wall.
Yeah, like
thing.
the cereal cup that's got the cereal and the milk separated.
Yeah, it's tough too because a lot of these things are kind of like half-baked ideas that. They're not even that great, but I kind of have to say they're great because I invested in them.
Are you still using the cereal cup?
This is one of those things off the record, not at all. On the record, every day. Love it. My favorite thing. Because I do like my cereal mostly dry. I just don't like it completely dry. I wish there was like a button you could push and it was like mild soak for the cereal. But I don't want it to get soggy.
Right. Yeah.
That's a hard code to crack.
Yeah.
I normally just eat the cereal quickly. Like
if you eat it fast.
Yeah, it's like the perfect because it is a little bit. I need more than like the instantaneous.
My
mixture.
philosophy is that grape nuts only cereal that needs a soak.
Oh yeah, that's right. Seriously, the soak few and far between. I'm not. Some people. Oh man, some people love the
mush.
Disintegrating. Yeah, I'm like, I cannot handle that, and I judge your character if that's you.
Right. And I'll say, along with the orphans and Annie, no more mush.
No more mush. Yeah.
No more mush.
No more mush. We are our church pastoral search committee. That honestly, if it's between three candidates, we might ask them about cereal and say like, how long does the milk and the cereal, and that will change everything.
Right. So yeah. So if you happen to be like spying out and you're like, two of their elders do a podcast, and let's get some insight if there's an interview, and you're like, they don't like mushy cereal. That could be the tiebreaker.
Could be the tiebreaker, I think.
Why cast lots when you can ask about mushy cereal?
Hey, yeah, that's great. That tells you a lot about a person. Don't think it doesn't. But there you go. We'll continue. This is episode 3.
Episode 3, yeah.
This will probably be maybe six or 7 episodes in this conversational apologetic series. Thanks for hanging in there with us. That's our take.
Thanks for listening to Take 2. Find us wherever you find podcasts and on YouTube for those who want to watch our videocast.